on Thursday at 10:30, I believe it is. Be sure to tune in on that. And evidently, they're giving people a forewarning, Mayor, because it says, although I-380 will remain open in one direction during the project, travelers are strongly encouraged to find suitable alternate routes to alleviate congestion and avoid delay. And that's from Pete Himmelstead, who is going to be a guest on.
Yeah. For example, I mean, if you're going to Cedar Rapids, you know, you can drop down through Vinton or something and cut over. I mean, it's 2-lane roads, but you know, maybe you want to try this once and see what you think.
Yeah, maybe exactly. Try it out.
It's going to be a mess.
Yeah. Well, it'll be worth it though.
With progress,
when it's sold,
you know,
when we're finished. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to take you now to a place where there's been so much controversy, the Martin cases, it's being called, and I think more, or just as importantly, there are people who have grave concerns about this law stand your ground, and people are actually, everyday people are actually afraid that, you know, if I let my kid go out, he may never come home again, and it's just put a chill, I think, and an extra burden on parents who shouldn't have to worry about a kid going to the store and is he going to come back home. Of course he's coming back home, you know. Mrs. Martin couldn't say that after her son was killed, but we don't know what all the circumstances are. Nobody knows that yet. So it's best to not start a lot of conversation if you really don't have all the facts. So we're not going there. I'm more interested from a personal standpoint, a professional standpoint, how you feel about the Stand Your Ground law.
Well, I think it's a terrible law. I think it's a terrible law for those states that have enacted it, Lou. And I think you'll recall, if not, I'll speak briefly to it, that in this legislature that's in session right now, at the beginning of the legislature, at the beginning of this session, the Republicans introduced a bill that would have done the same thing in Iowa, plus attached a provision to the bill that would have made it illegal for individual entities to, how do I want to say this? Let me back up a little bit. 2 years ago, when the legislature passed the shall issue gun law, it made it much easier for people to get gun permits. It created a real burden and a real issue for us in public office with public buildings, that we were wondering if people weren't just going to start walking in the city halls with guns strapped on them, which they could have done. And we passed an ordinance in Waterloo, as did several cities, making weapons illegal in public buildings. Any publicly owned building right now in Waterloo, it is illegal to carry a weapon in those buildings. The law that this legislature tried to pass would have included the Stand Your Ground law and would have removed the ability for local municipalities to prohibit weapons in those facilities. Now, they were going to keep the Capitol, so you couldn't bring a gun in the Capitol. They didn't want guns in their meetings, but it was okay to have guns in my meetings. That failed, which is
Thank heavens, I'm glad it did.
Thank heavens.
Absolutely.
But the Stand Your Ground law is a terrible law.
One of the worst.
Any law that makes, in my opinion only, that makes it easier for folks to acquire weapons, that it makes it easier for folks to use weapons or deadly force, is a bad law. Having said that, I've had guns in my house and in my hands since I was a 8-10-year-old little young'un growing up in the sticks in Arkansas. And I've killed enough squirrels to fill this room. And I'm the last person that would ever advocate for our guns to be taken away. So, I like guns. I have guns.
There are a lot of people
but there are places for guns, and there are places where guns shouldn't be.
Absolutely.
And so anyway, that's a little bit of a soapbox on stricter gun laws.
We're glad that you have expressed that, because people do want to know, and even if you don't have family of your own, if you have an interest in children's welfare and so forth, it would make you want more answers than we have. And I think there are already 20-some states who have that law.
I don't know.
28 or something like
They're
that?
an alarming number.
Yeah, and I'm glad Iowa's failed.
Yeah,
I
and
truly
I
am.
just, I hope, and I always say, Lou, I said it when I was running for my office, and I say it all the time, that people don't understand, I don't believe, how important elections are.
Mhm.
And elections matter.
Yes, they do.
And the people that.
And your vote matters. Your one
Your
vote
one
matters.
vote matters.
Yeah.
And the people that we elect matter. And it's always a huge chagrin to me that folks don't do more to investigate what people stand for.
Exactly.
In this upcoming election, this upcoming November election,
Mhm.
you're gonna have several opportunities to vote for our state legislators. And, you should ask them, how do you stand on this
Yeah.
stand your ground thing? How do you stand on more freedom for gun control? I think I'm a very responsible gun owner, and I've always stated, I like guns, I have guns, I
Mhm.
carried guns when I was a policeman. My kids grew up with guns. But the state should not allow me to strap on my gun and walk into a city council meeting. I shouldn't be allowed to do that. No one should. The state should not give me the right or the authority to shoot somebody and kill them because I think I might be afraid of them.
That's the scary part.
That's nuts.
That's absolutely scary.
That's
Yeah.
just nuts.
Yeah, because someone looks a certain
Yeah.
way, And if you even think, you don't even have to have proof.
No.
If you believe it, if you think someone is going to do something to you, you can kill them.
Right.
Now, that is not America as we know it, and it should not be.
It's crazy.
It should not be. It is crazy. It has no common sense reasons for positive outcomes whatsoever. You can't believe that adults would go for this kind of thing. I would think that they were out saying, this is a bad law, and there has been a lot of light shed on it, but I'd like to see no other state take it on, and I would like to see the present laws in those states where it is in effect, I would like to see it repealed.
Absolutely.
Absolutely
I couldn't
repealed.
agree with you more.
Yeah,
This is a poster child case, and, what is as insane, I hate to use that word, it's a bad word, what is as ridiculous is there have been those people that have said, well, if this Trayvon Martin, if he'd have been armed too, it would have made it better. Then they'd have both been armed. Then that's just craziness.
That's really, that's really out there.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, it's the strangest thing. We have about 7 minutes left, and I was going through your notebook, which is getting thicker all the time,
Good.
containing the mayor's
Means I'm still
updates.
here.
Means you're still here. And I picked up this piece of paper, and I'm saying, this can't be. These are some of the questions that I asked you when you were running for mayor.
My goodness.
When you were running for mayor, I'm going to pick out a couple and let you holler at them again.
Okay, you haven't prepped me on this, so
haven't prepped you at all. Haven't prepped you.
This is like a campaign style.
Yeah, absolutely. There are 4 of them all together, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop to this one.
Okay.
What changes do you want to see on your watch, such as in law enforcement, hiring, outreach, and so forth and so forth? You can give us a quick or a long answer.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick because I could make that a long answer. But I recognized when I was running for mayor, prior to running for mayor, that there were what I perceived as some inefficiencies in city government. And I think I've been pretty bold and pretty obvious in some of my changes since I got there.
Yes.
I am a huge advocate. There's a book by Jim Collins, and now all of a sudden I lost the name of the book, but the advocacy of the book is you have to have the right people in the right seats on the bus. You have to have the right people driving the bus and people in the right seats. And that's a metaphor for saying you have to have good people in your organization. And not necessarily that we had wrong people, but we had the wrong people in the wrong seats. We had the wrong people in some management positions in the city of Waterloo. I have made some corrections in that area. I think we have a much more efficient Waterloo City administration now. I absolutely hate having to fire somebody, let somebody go, but you just have to do it sometimes. You know, and not too long after I took office, I made the huge change in public safety when I made our then police chief the director of safety services, and he now oversees the administration of both police and fire. And boy, there was some heat generated over that.
Oh,
and that
there sure was, a whole lot.
That has turned out to be one of the most positive things that we could have done. I said at that time, you had to have the right people in order to make that work, and we did. I just had a meeting this morning with the Chief of Fire Services, Pat Treador, who's just doing an incredible job running the fire department. So I'm very pleased with that. We made some changes in our building department. We've made some small, some relatively large changes. We were approached shortly after I took office by a group of ladies, Jerry Thornsberry and another lady, I can't remember who, softly reminded me that, you know, the state has actually issued policy requiring cities to be more proactive in making sure that we have a good mix of minority and female representation on our boards and commissions. I would have done that anyway because I believe strongly in that, but we've made great strides in making more equal our boards and commissions as it pertains to minority and female participation in those.
And that's a good thing.
It's a great thing.
And there's still a lot of work to be done
there
in
is,
that area.
There is.
That is for sure.
You know, we have had 2 hirings in public safety. The police department has hired and the fire department have both hired. Or not necessarily hired, have tested, that's a better word. And I was not able to do as good a job as I wanted to in getting female and minority participation.
I know, Mayor, I'm always disappointed when those numbers come out and there's no African Americans, there's the female are not represented fairly and that kind of thing, but you don't give up on it because it still needs to happen.
Man, we worked hard and you helped, and we did, you know, we did an enormous marketing campaign to try to get those folks to just come out and test, and we didn't do so well in that, and I don't know what we have to do to make that happen. So in that area, I have not done as good a job as I want. Internally, city administration, we're moving in the right direction, and I've made changes, and I'm not necessarily sure that we're not all done yet, but we've done some stuff, and I'm pleased with what's happened so far.
Well, we wanted to close on this because of the Martin situation. I hope that will bring about more neighborhood associations and so forth, because I think that's been very helpful to what's been happening. At one time, there was no such animal, and now we do have those, and that means that people are saying, they finally said, we've had enough, we're not going to stand for this any longer, you know, it's not John Wayne, that kind of mentality, and so I hope that those associations will stay intact and there will be more coming on board, because the police can't do it all.
No, the police, Lou, are reactive. They react to something. We need the folks, particularly in the warmer summer months, to get out of their house, go to their front yard, go to their front porch.
Not be afraid to do so.
Not be afraid to, and when you got some knucklehead, you know, being an idiot on the street, if you can't take care of it yourself or you don't feel comfortable, call the police at that time. But we need neighbors getting involved. We need communities getting involved.
For sure. Okay. Well, your time is up, Mayor Buck Clark. Until next time. We are glad to have you to give us some insight on what happens at City Hall. There are many of us who really don't visit City Hall very often, and we don't know the workings. I think the same thing, the county should be doing something like this, because people don't realize the county's probably got the biggest budget that there is, period. And we don't necessarily know what happens with that, but that's because it's by choice. We can find out if we want to.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
It's not, I gotta add, it's not too, we've already touched on it, it's not too early. Start finding out who's running for offices.
Right now.
Start talking to them, call them, find out what they're platforming, ask them about this law, ask them what your questions, find out, and then go vote.
Absolutely. There was a movie, it's been years and years ago, but it said, what's it all about, Alfie? So whoever's running, ask them, you know, what's it all about?
What was that lady's
That was
name?
a great movie.
What was her name?
I can't even think of it, but it was a great movie. I loved it.
Man, that was a good movie.
Well, maybe next time.